What's up, everybody? Well, it's Halloween again, and that means I've got to make something ridiculous. This year, I built a spooky, light-up rattling coffin. Rattle. It's not voice activated, but it'd be cool if it was. It runs off of spotlights, a 12-volt motor, and an incremental timer so that it goes off every 90 seconds or so. Sound cool? Let's get into it. It gets me every time.
Now, before I got started on this project, I had to make an agreement with my wife. If I was going to make a coffin, it couldn't be child-sized. So I'm cutting the dog ears off of these cedar fence boards, down to like 5'6". That's still an adult size. A small adult, but hey, it's an adult. A few of the boards I'm ripping into 2-inch strips. These will serve as the backer boards for the other boards to nail to. Now, this is one of the few projects where accuracy and precision doesn't really matter, because we're making a spooky coffin, so cracks and uneven boards and crappy nailing, that just adds to it. It makes it look better, actually. The nails aren't really structural, they're more aesthetic, so that's why I use these big broadhead nails. Everything later gets glued up and brad nailed together. Building it this way keeps it nice and lightweight, so it's easy to handle and easy to store. I draw out my coffin shape using the spookiest measurements I can find, the ones I made up. The only bit of math in this project is remembering that everything is on a 15-degree angle, divided in half. So everything I cut needs to be on a 7.5-degree angle, which is easy to do when you have a sliding compound miter saw. A quick test fit to make sure everything fits, and then we can start cutting things to shape. I'd be lying if I said I didn't hit any nails while cutting this, but it's okay. I need a new blade anyways. A few spots needed to be trimmed back to fit the sidewalls. A little bit of Type Bond 3, a couple of clamps, and a few 16-gauge brad nails, and this coffin's starting to take shape. Ain't pretty, but it'll do. Now that's one adult-sized coffin. A very small adult. Now cedar boards aren't very spooky, so we gotta make this thing spooky. And that means it's painting time. First, we stain everything down to a medium gray. Next, we'll make ourselves a couple of washes. We'll take some spray bottles filled with water, add some acrylic paint, and a couple drops of soap, then give it a good shake, and you've got instant weather in a bottle. The soap is a surfactant, so it runs down easily, and since it's so thin of a paint, you can add as many layers as you want to it to really build up different levels of grime. I had some spray paint laying around, so I figured, why not? Put it on. Couldn't hurt. And if it does hurt, I'll wire brush it back. Now all good coffins need a cross on the front, so I picked up a cross at the local Goodwill, and sorry, Jesus. In case you forgot, if you angle grind something, it gets really hot. The cross had this flower motif on it, and that won't do. So I used the angle grinder to kind of chop it up and make it a bit more rustic. Spooky rustic. I hit it with some black metallic paint, then used some white acrylic paint to dry brush over the top to pick out the details. Then, using those same nails as I used before, I mounted the cross in the front of the coffin. The cracks in between the boards let a little bit of light out, but I want a lot more light to come through. So I'm going to cut some cracks in the board to make it a bit more dramatic. This was no time to be precise, and the more blowout you could get with your blade, the better. As a final touch, I came back with some brown stain and I added some streaks where the nails are and where the cracks were to kind of add that extra layer of dirtiness. Overall, I'm happy with how it looks. It has a dirty, creepy look to it. Now that it looks good in the daytime, it's time to make it look cool in the nighttime. Ooh. I'm bolting two 30-watt spotlights to the top and the bottom of the inside of the coffin. That's 60 watts of spookiness for those of you keeping track at home. The bolts I have are too long to mount the spotlights to, so I mark them and cut them down with my spooky angle grinder. What makes it spooky? You angle grind in the dark. These spotlights can change colors. I can make them green, red, purple, Christmas colored. Ooh, Christmas coffin. I'll see if my wife will approve that. Spotlights have a pretty harsh light, so I'm using wax paper to give it more of a diffused glow. That makes it look more eerie and not just one big hot spot in the top. I'm using the same wax paper to attach to the back of the cracks to also act as little mini diffusers, and then sealing it up with clear packing tape. This will keep the weather out, and there's electronics inside. I don't want rain getting in. Speaking of electronics, this is the brains of the operation. It's an incremental timer that allows you to set an open time and a close time for the circuit. When the circuit is open, it activates this 12-volt vibration motor. I loosely attach it to the door. This way it gives it enough space to jump and hop. If you were to crank it down, it just kind of buzzes and doesn't rattle. Lastly, I need to attach a kickstand to this so it can freestand. I don't want to lean this against my house because it is loud, and you can actually hear it inside. Now it looks great in the daytime, but it really comes to life at night. Literally. It's better be worth it.